Hello, and welcome to the Rabe Creations Crochet Chat podcast. Today is May 14th, 2020, and my name's Nicole. I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada, where I live with my husband Barry and my wonderful rescued Rottweiler named Grace. So, how's everybody doing? We're doing pretty good here. We're doing pretty good. Alberta, the province I live in, has started to lift some of the restrictions that we have been living under for the past couple of months anyway. Now I live in Calgary and we were hit harder by COVID-19 than some of the other places in the province. So we're opening a little slower here in Calgary than in some other places in the province. But the good news is that we are starting to see some retail stores being able to operate again. So hopefully that means I'll be able to get into the yarn store soon, because I have really spent the past couple of months working through my yarn stash, and it has gone surprisingly well. I've been finding projects, pairing it up with yarn out of stash and going from there, and I have some really great things to share with you today. So I will be talking to you a bit today about some finished projects, a couple of things that I have finished. I have a couple of whips to share with you as well, and then a brief shop update because I released a pattern. It was, everything creative is happening right now, so that's a great thing. Let me see. I think that wraps up my bit of an introduction, so let's get right into it. All right, so let's start out with some finishes. Yay for finishes. So let me see here, starting out with these. So I came up with a pattern last year for cup cozies. Use my bottle of pop to show you how they work. So that is how they work. Of course, they're meant for the to-go coffee cups, but works on bottles as well. This pattern I based on a sleeve. So on a sleeve cuff, because they're coffee sleeves and I was being witty. So it is the bottom of a sleeve. So it's got a cuff and a bit of a sleeve start, and that is my coffee sleeve. These ones are obviously done up for Halloween, getting a little bit more product prepared for my fall markets. I always add a nice little button. I have quite the button collection that I have collected over the years. So I add a little button to each piece in a corresponding color or pattern, and those will go into my inventory. That's the word I'm looking for, my inventory. So I have never released this. I have this and then one other cuff pattern that I came up with that I've never released as a pattern in Etsy. I will probably be writing them up here pretty quick and getting them in there. But what I was wondering is if there would be any kind of interest in me doing my first video tutorial on the drink sleeves. So if that is something that y'all would be interested in seeing, let me know down below, and I will I'll work out the camera setup for a tutorial, a YouTube tutorial, and who knows, it could be the first of many. So if you are interested in having a tutorial for my drink sleeves, please let me know. So that was the first things that I finished, were the drink sleeves. Then I wanted to share with you, you saw this as a work in progress. It has been washed. It has been blocked. Has a little button on the back as well. It is the Winnie Dress. So for those of you who are new here, first of all, hello, welcome. I am expecting my first grandchild, and it is a grandbaby girl. Her name will be Hazel. I am excited. So this is one of the many things I have been creating for my new granddaughter. It is the Winnie Dress, and it is a YouTube tutorial by Wooly Wonders Crochet. I believe she also sells the pattern on her Etsy page, but it is available as a full tutorial. It has this really neat detailing that I'm sure you can see from the front, or at least I hope so, of these lines that at the bottom of the dress are connected to little diamonds at the bottom. I really, really like this. This colorway is just gorgeous. It is everything. So the yarn, let me talk to you a little bit about the yarn. The yarn is a hand-dyed fingering weight yarn called I Can Kill You With My Brain. It is done up by a local to me dyer called the Fiber Goddess. I will link a link to her down below. Let me see. It is an 80% superwash BFL and 20% nylon. So it is a sock yarn. I figured if I was going to be making baby items out of wool, that I wanted it to be sock yarn because of the nylon content. It tends to make it a little bit stronger and superwash so that it can actually be laundered a little less carefully than if it was non-superwash wool. But yes, so that is the Winnie Dress by Wooly Wonders Crochet. She does great patterns, great tutorials. So if you are interested, I will link that down below. So those are the two finishes that I will share with you at the moment. There were a couple of more. I'm showing a couple near the end and one that I'm saving for next time because it's not quite ready to show you yet. But those are my finishes. I do have some whips to share with you as well. So let's move right into those whips. All right, I do need to let you know that the wind is extremely strong out there today. I did close the window. I've been having it open because, you know, it gets really warm in here because the sun is shining, but the wind is cool and extremely boisterous today. So I've closed the window, but you may still hear a little bit of howling from outside. Rest assured, it is the wind. Hopefully, in the next couple of weeks or so, I'll be able to film some of these outside. And yeah, that will be exciting. I look forward to filming outside. So, on to some whips. Let me start with this one here. So this next whip I'm going to show you, it is called the Rosetta Cardigan by Annelies Baes, B-A-E-S, is her last name, the designer's last name. And I found the design in this book, Crochet One Skein Wonders for Babies. And this is the little picture of the cardigan. Isn't that beautiful? Really, really like this cardigan. I will say that the pattern was fairly easy to understand. There's a couple of places where I had to reread. Unfortunately, there is a major error in the pattern as written in the book. One set of instructions is completely missed, and the next set of instructions has been repeated twice. So that caused a little bit of confusion when I tried to do that round. However, it was easy enough to figure out what had been missed and correct it. Now, I know this pattern is also available on the designer's website or Etsy. I will link below if I can find it again. I would assume that in that medium, the patterns would have been corrected. I believe this is just a printing error with the book. I never did go look to see if there was any errata published about corrections. That sometimes magazines and books, if mistakes were made, will publish the corrections. I did not go back and check to see if that has been done or not, but just a word to the wise, if you do have this book and you plan to make this cardigan, know that there is an error in the pattern. You can always email me. My email is down below, and I will give more specifics if that is something you're interested in. So my fix sort of thing. But here it is. So this is not quite complete. As you can see, there are strings, and I do have to get some buttons, but here it is. Is this not absolutely adorable? I love the little ruffle finish on the bottom, and the sleeves sort of mimic that without the big ruffle, but it does have the same stitch pattern. One of the things I found interesting, it does have a bit of a picot edging along the bottom of the cardigan and along each of the sleeves. Interestingly enough, I've never seen a picot edging formed in this way. So I learned something new, and that's always exciting. Let's talk a little bit about the yarn that I used. So this yarn, it was actually from Micheals, and it is called a Swirl Pie, and the colorway was raspberry. Now I do have a couple in another color. Let me hold, please. All right, so this is what they looked like at Micheals. I'm sure you all saw them. And I don't know what actually possessed me to pick them up, because it's not something I normally would have been attracted to. It almost looks like a roving. It's very fuzzy and furry. I think it may have been a price point that allowed me to pick it up. I'm pretty sure these were on clearance. They are 100% acrylic, but they are, it does say hand wash in cold and lay flat to dry. I have already warned my my son and daughter-in-law that there will be a couple of pieces that have a little bit more care to them, and they're okay with that. It is a medium weight yarn, so a size 4. They are suggesting a 6mm hook, but I actually used a 3.5 for this pattern, so a hook that was considerably smaller than the hook suggested, and it still, as you can see, has given phenomenal drape. Now, I don't know, but I'm not sure that I heard or saw anybody reviewing this yarn when it was available. I don't know if it's something that's going to be available again this season. Maybe Crystal at Ricola, aka Crochet. Oh, Crystal, I am so sorry. I never get your channel name right. But she works at Micheals, so maybe she will have some insight as to whether these are going to be coming back again. Because if they do, I totally suggest trying these out. This yarn is amazingly soft. It has a really interesting texture. There's no itch factor to it at all. It is soft like a cloud. It is amazing. It does have the fluff as if it is an Angora, which means it probably will pill. So that is something to be aware of. And as I said, it's not probably not going to be a hard wearing yarn, if only because it does have more strict care with the hand wash and whatnot. But I love this. It worked up so amazingly well. Although there is one slight caution, it does not frog as easily as other yarns. It is froggable. It's not like some of those yarns where once you've done it, that's it. You better not make any mistakes because it ain't coming out again. It is, you are able to pull it out, but you do need to do it with some caution. Be careful. It will snag up on itself just a little bit, but I found that, you know, a little bit of an extra tug would release it again, and you'd be able to keep frogging out. So it is a little bit more of a challenge to frog, but not impossible. But I do have to say it's almost as if it was made for this pattern. Like, honestly, there was no color controlling that went on here. It works from the top down, and I just worked the yarn as it came out of the ball, and I am absolutely amazed with how well it worked. Like I said, it almost is like it was made for this pattern. I'm so pleased. This was done in less than a single skein. So each of these does contain, let me see here, 459 meters or 502 yards. So I was able to do this in less than a skein. I was able to get one other little piece out of this. That's the piece I'm going to hold off and share with you next time, and still have a wee little bit left over. So yeah, great value because it was so on sale, but I suspect that if they come out with these swirl pies again, I will quite possibly be buying them even at full price. I like the yarn that much. So big thumbs up from me. All right, so moving on to my final work in progress to share with you today. And it is, not surprisingly, another piece for my grandbaby. So if you like, you know, the child and the baby crochet patterns, hey, I'm your girl right now, because 90% of what I'm doing is definitely focused on Hazel. So let me see. I am making Hazel a bunting bag, a mermaid tail bunting bag. Now, I know these mermaid tails were all the rage a couple of years ago, but I think they're adorable for newborns, for a photo prop, or just for a nice little sleeping warm little bunting bag. So this is what it is so far. It is worked from the bottom up, and this is all crocodile stitch. Now, if you've done crocodile stitch before, you know what a yarn eater it is. So it did take a fair amount of yarn to get through this. The yarn that I used for the crocodile stitch portion of the tail is Red Heart Super Saver. And again, it is just yarn that I had in my stash. I believe it was a full skein. It may have been slightly less than a full skein, but the colorway is called Monet. And I really like it. I think it is really gives that watercolor look for a mermaid tail. I think it is perfect. So the tail scales part itself will come up to baby's about waist. And then I am working a large section of rib that is going to work up from sort of the waist, the belly, up to just underneath the armpits. That is a slight deviation from the pattern. So the pattern itself is a video tutorial, again on YouTube, from Nadia of Yarnutopia on YouTube. She does a lot of YouTube video tutorials with crochet. Hers had a few more rows of scale. I had to stop because I ran out of this yarn, so I had to modify the pattern. So hers has a few more rows of scale, a smaller little ribbed band at the top, but I just grabbed some Impeccable, good old handy Impeccable, to do the rest of the chest band, I'm calling it, and it will probably end up being another 2 or 3 inches. And then the tail fin will again be in this purple Impeccable at the bottom. And I think it's going to be absolutely adorable. So I hope to be able to get some pictures of the baby in the snuggle sack. I used to do a lot of portrait photography, so hopefully I'll be able to brush off the old equipment and see if I can't get some great newborn shots of my grandbaby. It all depends on where we're at with all this social distancing and whatnot at the beginning of September, when Hazel is due to be born into this world. So yeah, very exciting. Yeah. Crazy times we live in. Crazy times we live in. It is positive to see the switches going back to, retaining, going back to a little bit more of a normal lifestyle for us when it comes to, being able to go out and about. We're still being cautioned, to keep the 2 meters distance, wear masks when we're in public spaces. It's a different world right now. That's for sure. Now, hopefully, a lot of these restrictions will be lifted by the time the baby is born, because it would break my heart to not be able to love and cuddle on my grandbaby. So keep your fingers crossed that by September, everything is a little less crazy than it is now. Speaking of crazy, I have a wedding to go to in 2 days. My son is getting married, the son who is expecting the baby. He and Dayton have, they set their date a while ago. Now, of course, we're not allowed to have mass gatherings or anything like that, so it's just going to be a very small backyard affair with a justice of the peace, the bride and groom, the parents of the bride, the parents of the groom, and that's and siblings. So my other son and his wife, and the bride's sister as well. And that's it. And we have to keep 2 meters apart from each other. It's kind of crazy to try and do this at this time. They have decided that next year, in the same, time period, so in mid-May or whatever, that they would do a renewal of their vows and have their reception at that point. Yeah, they just really want to get her done. So, I gotta support them in that. And it'll be, as I said, I don't know if I said it on my last crochet catch up or whether it was on my floss tube, that it's going to be one scruffy wedding, because even though the retail stores are allowed to be open again, they're not allowed to have more than, they have to restrict the number of people going into the stores. So you're lined up outside everywhere to even go into stores. If they even open, they don't have to open, but they can open. So a lot of stores aren't ready. They weren't sure 100% whether they were going to be able to open or not. All of their staff have been laid off, so they have to call back their staff to work and stuff. So I don't expect anybody to really be up and functioning all that well for another week or so. But it is a step in the right direction. Hopefully, everything goes well and we don't have any spikes in infection rates and have to close everything back down again, because that would be heart-wrenching. I think that is almost all that I have for you today, other than a quick shop update. So let me just collect my things and I will be right back and we will do that shop update. All right. So for the last segment of today's podcast, I would like to present to you my newest design that has been released in my Etsy shop. So yes, I have a pattern release to talk to you about. So this is the Hazel Bonnet. Yes, it is named for my grandbaby. I designed this because I had extra yarn left over from the Winnie Dress. So the dress itself took up a full skein of fingering yarn and then a little bit more. So about a skein and a quarter it used up. So I had about 3/4 of a skein of the fingering yarn. And I really thought, well, I'll make a bonnet out of this, so I didn't want to waste any of it. I wanted to use it all up. So I went searching for a pattern and I could not find a bonnet pattern that I liked using a fingering weight yarn. Everything was sort of done in DK or worsted weight, and I didn't want that sort of bulk. Besides that, it was fingering weight yarn that I had to work with. So I did what I do and I designed my own, and this is what I have come up with. So the bonnet itself starts at the back and is worked in a continuous spiral around and around and around till it gets to the right size. Then you stop working around and around and around and you start working back and forth in rows to do this lace pattern at the front. And it has turned out exactly as I was hoping. It has a real vintage feel to it. Now it does have strings to tie up with, so it's not something that you leave baby unattended wearing. But I love it. I'm really, really pleased with how it turned out. This one is done in the Fiber Goddess yarn. And then I took the pattern and did a second one to test the pattern out before it went to anybody else. And this is the second. So the first is the prototype, and this is the second that is worked off the pattern. So a few tweaks from the original, but for the most part, the lace is worked in shells and V-stitches. And as I said, the back of the bonnet is just a continuous spiral. The two almost I-cord tie strings at the neck. And that is that. So this is, as I said, available on my Etsy shop, which is conveniently linked below. I would love for you to come and take a look at it. And if it's something that you're interested in, it is there for your crochet pleasure. So for everybody who has been visiting my Etsy shop, thank you very much. For those who have been purchasing, thank you, thank you, thank you. It means the world to me that others find what I'm creating to be worthy of purchase. So thank you so much. Keep watching that shop. If you are on Etsy, if you like my shop, so if you go in and make it one of your favorites, then you will receive notifications through Etsy when new things get released in the shop. So it's a great way to stay up to date. And that goes for both my crochet followers and my cross-stitch followers, because I do release things for both in my shop. So, yeah, that's about all I have for you today. My next crochet podcast will be filmed on the 28th to be released, late on the 28th. Probably more people will watch it on the 29th and beyond. And if you are interested in floss tube, so in cross stitching, I will be filming another floss tube next Thursday on the 21st. So yeah, lots of opportunities for us to get together. So that's about all I have for you today. As always, take some time for yourself. Take care of yourself. Allow yourself to feel all the things that you need to feel around this COVID-19 or anything else that is happening. Yeah, take some time for yourself. Be kind to yourself. It's okay. Be kind to each other. So very important right now, as everything is starting to open up again and we're sort of lifting some of our restrictions. I think it's really important that we remember that different people are at different places with this, right? So, you've got some people who are chomping at the bit and, oh, this is taking too long. We need to be able to get back to the way things were. And, people protesting the lockdowns. And on the other opposite end of the spectrum, you've got people who are so afraid right now. So just be kind to each other as things start to open up again. We just need to support each other and know that, where people are at are where people are at. And it's okay. We will get through this. So be kind to each other, be kind to yourselves, and have a great time with your crochet. We'll see you next time. Bye now.